And a lot of people would say, you know, why would you help this group of people?
Yeah, so when I was going through graduate school at Alabama State University in Montgomery.
Hold on. So you went from being a kicker and punter at the University of Alabama to being at Alabama State, a HBCU.
That is correct.
In grad school. Okay, talk
That is
about
correct.
that.
Dismantle the school to prison pipeline.
Gotcha.
We introduce a rubric that myself and Dr. Brown have created, and it talks about the 12 points on how to disrupt the school to prison pipeline.
So let me ask you this. This may be a crazy hypothetical question. But if you had all of the money, all of the power, and all of the influence right now, and you could change this, where would you start and how would you change it? Welcome to another episode of Hope is Not Enough. Now, I am your host, Mansfield Key III, known to most as OP Key, and today I have a very special guest, Dr. William Combs III. If people see you now in the field of education, they see the passion, they see all the things that you produce, all the things that you're doing. But let's go back. Tell me about Billy, that kid, that teenager. Before you started doing the things that you're doing today, who were you as a kid? And did you always aspire to be an educator?
That's a great question. I knew at one time in my childhood that I wanted to help people. I just didn't know in what capacity.
Gotcha.
My mom used to ask me, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" I'm like, "Mom, I don't know. I just want to help folks." And so after going through a stint in nursing, realized that
nursing. Hold on.
Went through a stint in nursing, going through nursing school, and let me know real quick that's what I didn't want to be.
So what made you think you wanted to be a nurse, man? So you wanted to help people?
Wanted to help people, and at the time there was a really good-looking girl that I was dating at the time that was in nursing school, and so I went down that road. Of course, I drove my mom and dad crazy with that idea of going to nursing school. But,
and then how did you make the transition? When did you realize, because sometimes it's finding out what you don't want to do that leads you to the thing that you were born to do.
I had a good friend that was a baseball coach in Robertsdale, Alabama. And he reached out to me. He said, don't let money dictate what you do. Money will always find a way in your pocket if you're a hard worker.
Gotcha.
And so after taking that advice, I really sat down with myself and was like, I really want to coach, and I really want to be around kids, and I want to be a positive influence, and that was the capacity I was looking for.
So you make the transition from nursing, and did you automatically say, I'm going into education, I want to coach, or?
I did. And I was fortunate enough to play football at the University of Alabama, where I was a punter and a kicker.
Yeah.
And so
you just skipped over that part. The University of Alabama. So who were you recruited by when you?
I was actually recruited by Ray Perkins, and went through that, and went to a junior college in Mississippi right after high school.
Okay.
And then I went to go play for the university after those 2 years.
Gotcha.
Ended up playing with Coach Bill Curry, who was not the initial coach there that was recruiting me at the time.
And what was that experience like?
Oh, it was great. I wish I would have really just taken advantage of that moment, but I was a backup.
So you were young, you didn't know.
And I was a backup, and I wasn't a starter. So when you're not a starter, you start to realize that, instead of looking for the positives, you're looking at the negative.
Gotcha.
And as a young 20-year-old, you're caught up in that, hey, I should be on the field.
Gotcha. So you always look at, you became that complainer.
Right.
Not the one that's working extra hard, hoping that you get an opportunity, but looking at the one in front of you.
One thing Coach Curry used to share with us is he'd say, a lot of you guys out there that aren't playing, instead of, congratulating your teammates and encouraging them, you guys seem to go into a club I call the Fellowship of the Miserable. And that's a reason why we're not winning the games we should be winning, is that we have too many of you on the team. And that was an eye-opener for me, because, instead of appreciating that moment in time and just holding on to those memories, I think that's human nature. We tend to want to be in that fellowship of the miserable.
Gotcha. That's crazy. We always hear misery loves company.
That's right.
And that, when you get with that group, you become a choir member of the singing, woe is me, instead of, hey, my opportunity coming, let's work hard.
And they're always recruiting for that club. They're always recruiting.
So you shift from that, and then your first opportunity in the field of education was what?
I was able to be a special education teacher and an English teacher. And so I did that at Central Nell High School, got the coaching, job, and was really, really excited to be a part of that. Worked with some young men, had an opportunity to work with a kid named Stephen Lee, who later signed at the University of Tennessee.
Gotcha.
Was able to work with him for 3 or 4 years before that moment in time. And I can remember Phil Fulmer coming in the field house saying, hey, where's Coach Combs? And what a great feeling that was to have to go get him out of math class.
Gotcha. Because somebody's coming.
That is correct.
So basically that was probably the first time that you saw kind of like the fruit of your labor are pouring into somebody else and them benefiting from it.
That is correct. And also it was an eye-opener for me that the majority of the students that I coached and the majority of the students that I taught didn't really share the same characteristics or the same positive benefits I had growing up. I had a mother and father who was married 54 years.
Gotcha.
I was fortunate to grow up in the suburbs,
Gotcha.
to be in a good middle class.
So you didn't have those barriers that they had,
Correct.
That's good.
And it seemed like every child that I would work with, it was almost an epiphany for me to realize, wow, 80% of the students I teach don't have the benefits that I have.
I have a mom. Wow, that's.
And so
how did you? So from that, because some people see that, and instead of them allowing that to produce a passion to help those students, some use it to kind of repel and say, I wasn't one of those students and I'm not really called to help those students. How did that affect you? Because I'm looking at the work that you're doing today. What do you do when you lose the passion, but you still have to show up to work every day because you need the paycheck? I mean, you have the degree, you have the skill set to do what you're gonna do, but sometimes we need that boost, right? What do you do when the thing that you used to love, now you don't even like it anymore, right? Sometimes we need a boost. Everyone say, I need a boost. Somebody say burnout. What do you do when your passion doesn't match your pay? And a lot of people would say, why would you help this group of people?
Yeah, so when I was going through graduate school at Alabama State University in Montgomery.
Hold on. So you went from being a kicker and punter at the University of Alabama to being at Alabama State, a HBCU.
That is correct.
In grad school. Okay, talk about
correct.
that.
The professor that had the most influence of my life is Dr. Sidney Brown. He is a professor at Tuskegee right now, full tenure professor. And he was he was an associate professor back then. We had a law class, and there was one particular law case that he gave me. And I wonder sometimes if he gave it to me for a reason, but it was the Alabama Constitution of 1901. And in that Constitution, there's some pretty racially charged language that pretty well much spelled out who had an opportunity for public education. And it wasn't even people like myself. I come from sharecroppers. I come from really humble beginnings.
Gotcha.
And it's spelled in that Constitution that was only changed in 2022.
Just changed. Wow.
Just changed. And so he was the one that really planted those seeds for me. And I thank him for that. As a matter of fact, I called him a couple of weeks ago and we had a conversation over the phone.
Just let him.
And it's like, hey, look, I just want to let you know, man, you
God.
really put some things in my soul.
It's amazing how people impact our lives.
Oh.
And then, you know, while it's taking place, we know it's something, but we don't.
Look, I was in my 30s. I wasn't really understanding a lot of this. He was the one that actually mentioned the school to prison pipeline to me.
So how did you get into this work? And like when you were here, when we connected, you were, of course, your own personal family, and you can share a little bit about, you know, some of the things that took place, you know, not going into details, but that gave you the passion for some who may not have everything they need in the school system.
Yeah, when you have students who are special needs, and when you even have family members who are special needs, you know, a lot of people that go into becoming an educator, especially a special education educator, a lot of times it's because they have a family member that have special needs, or they have close friends that have children.
So that pain and those problems and that past can produce that passion for that. That's good.
That's true. But it wasn't until I became a director of special education, which when I left you guys here in North Alabama, I took a position in Monroe County. And I was a director of special education. I had a local judge come to the office one day, and he said, you know, I want to talk to you about some things. I said, sure. And he shared with me some scenarios that had gone on in his courtroom where parents would show up with copies of their IEPs of their students, copies of behavior intervention plans. And they would say, well, look, we've got this protection. And he'd say, ma'am, your son's 24 years old. He said, that documentation is only
relevant when they were in school. Right.
And so it was through a lot of those tough conversations is where I was like, you know, this is a phenomenon. This is real stuff.
And you watching the connection between
the most common thing I see in public education with special needs students is when we identify those students early on, say second and third grade, they have some behavior problems, maybe some absences, some things like that. And it's the perfect recipe for a referral. But the problem is, Pete, is when these students get into that program, is when they start going through those channels of supposedly help, what we see a lot of teachers just passing them along and not challenging them. And what happens is there are only maybe 2 or 3 grade levels, reading grade levels in between a special needs child and a child that's not. But what happens by the time they get to high school and on into high school is there's 5 and 6 grade levels in between there.
Gotcha.
Now here's the problem. Here's the problem.
Hey, I know you're locked in and I know you don't need the interruptions, but just do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button real quick so we can build up subscribers and keep bringing you content like this. Peace.
What we're seeing is we're seeing high school teachers becoming the gatekeeper of a high school diploma. They've been passed along, age promoted all these years. Now, ninth grade, it stops.
Right. So now this teacher has to make a decision on.
Now we have a dropout. And there's nothing in these streets for these students. So it's really what we call the setup.
So when they drop out, the common denominator from the dropout, that's what transitioned into the school to prison pipeline.
In the state of Alabama, 74% of the individuals that are incarcerated in our prisons had an IEP or a behavior intervention plan at one time.
74%.
74%.
Meaning that at some point they were already identified as needing that extra. So how do we?
Well, here's.
I'm an educator. I'm a teacher. I'm a special ed counselor. How? And I'm hearing you, and I'm hearing 74%. Or I'm a judge. I'm a politician, or what? I'm hearing this. What do I do with it? How do I? If someone's watching and saying, okay, how can we help you do what you're doing, and what are you doing? And then how can we prevent some of these from going to prison?
The first thing they can do is listen. We need people who's willing to listen. Because right now in our society, we always want to shift blame. We always want to play the blame game. Parents are doing everything they can right now. They're fighting a war at home. They're doing the best they can. And educators, we have to meet those parents where they're at. We have to meet them where they're at. And say, look, we understand that, families in 2025 may look a lot different than what you and I saw growing up.
But
at
that's
the end of the
family
day,
unit.
hey, life keeps going on, right?
Wow.
You know, clock keeps ticking. These children, they're not asking to be set up in this way. They are trusting us as adults to do the right thing, to challenge those students, not to just pass them and push them on and set them up for what happens when they enter high school.
So let me ask you this. This may be a crazy hypothetical question. But if you had all of the money, all of the power, and all of the influence right now, and you could change this, where would you start and how would you change it?
Well, it starts at home. You know, to give parents the tools they need to be successful, to educate them and let them know that, look, we're in this fight with you. We're in this fight with you.
So a lot of parents just don't know that they're supported.
They don't. And they're scared of schools in a way, and maybe I shouldn't use the word scared, but they're a little intimidated. Sometimes they come up there, they'll stick their chest out and say their piece, but then they leave.
So what do you do when you have a generation that's gone before who had these same issues? Maybe they didn't end up in prison,
Correct.
But now their mothers and their grandmothers. And it's the second and third generation of those same students. And now their kids are going through the school and they already had a mentality when they were in school. How do we break that?
Well, one of the things that I have participated in the past several months is a good friend of mine, Dr. Adolph Brown.
Okay,
he is
Dr.
a
Brown,
co-host.
yeah, I heard of that's the guy.
He was co-host of the ABC Parent Test this past year. I have known him 20 years. I had the opportunity to go to Anson County, North Carolina several months ago for what he calls Super Saturdays. It's an opportunity for parents to come to the school, be a part, and he has a series of these Saturdays where connections are made.
Wow. So
Friendships
he's bridging the gap with collaboration and
you would
partnership.
never think that these parents would show up on Saturdays, but these gymnasiums.
So what? I mean, do we have like some feeding them? What's the incentive?
Yeah.
Or is it just
so
come? I mean,
look,
what?
We meet them where they're at. They come up here. We have mental health individuals that come and talk to the parents about parenting.
Okay, gotcha.
We bring in a whole entourage of people
Gotcha.
to meet these parents' needs. And once we're able to break those barriers, these parents open up to us in ways that they've never opened up.
They're telling you really
before.
what they need, what they want, what
That
their
is
fears.
correct. So instead of putting a facade or maybe a barrier that we're not seeing through, they open up. When you break bread with people and you sit down and you share stories about, hey, this could have went differently for me. If I wouldn't have had the support system in my life, if I wouldn't have had the parents, if I wouldn't have had
so they're sharing the
system,
stories.
they're sharing stories. And we teach them, we meet them where they're at. We show them how to work with their kids. And we get those kids to build that trust between parent and child. And that's where it begins. Because remember, we only see them until they're 5 years old. And teachers, we used to always say the 17-7 rule. Hey, y'all get them for 17 hours, we get them for 7. But what are we doing in the 7 hours we have them?
That's powerful.
And
what
how can we
doing?
help you put in the work for the 17 that you have?
Wow. It's funny you mentioned that. Normally when I'm doing presentations, I have this dirt and water, and I use the dirt representing the kid, and I pour the water, and I talk about, as a teacher, you may not see the results,
right.
But are you pouring water and giving and pushing, or are you just sitting back saying, oh, I see all the dirt in there and I'm not?
That's right.
When we talk about school to prison pipeline, what have you created that can prevent that and make it better for those who may be, like you said, almost in line to follow that same thing? Because you mentioned a program. Talk a little bit about that program. Hey, I know you're locked in and I know you don't need the interruptions, but just do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button real quick so we can build up subscribers and keep bringing you content like this. Peace.
Yeah, actually, which is pretty cool. I'm very excited about working with the former student of mine.
Gotcha.
When I was in Thomasville, Alabama years ago, I was a young assistant principal, wanted to have all the answers, didn't have all the answers. And I was challenged with this one young man named Ralph A.G. I met him when he was in the 8th grade and I was 36. Wow. And when I'm telling you, he took up a lot of my time and a lot of my day.
Yeah.
But every child is looking for that one person to associate with. And believe me,
you became that connector for.
Hey, we had a deal. If you went a whole day without getting into a fight, I had a Hardee's biscuits for you the next morning. And
that's one way to do it.
And you know, you get to the stomach, and he had a grandmother that was really patient, and you know, God rest her soul, she was very influential in me breaking through to Ralph, because she gave me the things that he likes, the things that he wanted to do, even though he wouldn't open up to me about it.
Wow.
And so, yeah, we were able to, we were able to do that. Well, today we actually traveled together, and he's grown. We were in Lexington, Kentucky a few years back, shortly after I called you and told you about that.
Yes.
And so we go around, and the reason why I'm dressed in black, one of my country music singers that my father used to like was Johnny Cash, and one of the reasons why he liked him.
Come on, you're gonna sing some Johnny Cash for us?
No, I can't do that. But he would say, you know, Billy, you and your mama and me, I know you think we got it all, but you know, in the big world of things, we're kind of have-nots. We come from humble beginnings. We come from sharecroppers. Wow. We come from humble beginnings. He said, do me a favor. You always talk about the have-nots and you talk about the haves. Just always remember where you come from, and always remember the have-nots. And so that's where I'm at in my career. After 28 years in public education, I'm at a point now where I can give all of my time towards this. I've got a book coming out in a month, K-12 Sell.
K-12 Sell. Talk a little bit about that, because that's what we first started connecting.
That's right. It's a book that shares personal experiences along with the how-to dismantle the school-to-prison pipeline.
Gotcha.
We introduce a rubric that myself and Dr. Brown have created, and it talks about the 12 points on how to disrupt the school-to-prison pipeline.
Now, I know we don't have time to go through all 12, but if you could give us one before we close, what would be that one tool, a tip, a technique?
To teach like a coach instead of an umpire. Teach like a coach.
Teach like a coach.
When an umpire officiates a game, they have one job, and that's to govern the game, to make sure things are fair and consistent for both sides, right?
Gotcha.
A good official, right?
Should.
But that's not always what happens sometimes, especially when we teach. We run our classrooms like a ball game. In other words, the problems that we see as problems, what do baseball umpires do with problems in the ball game?
Yeah.
We eject, right?
Yeah.
So in 2 weeks, I'm going to be in Escambia County, Alabama, working with the Escambia County Schools.
Gotcha. Familiar with that.
We've got 2 prisons in that county. 2. Wow. We've got Fountain Prison and Holman Prison.
Holman, been there.
And I talked to Dr. Michelle Collier, the superintendent, this past week, and she's really wanting us to come in and breathe new air into that district.
That's great.
And look, we need to make people aware of the school-to-prison pipeline. Students need to know about this. This is nothing that we should protect.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Alabama is the fourth state in the nations that build prisons per capita.
Right, and they just did a new documentary about the Alabama prison.
That is correct.
So Combs, as we close, this whole thing is called Hope Is Not Enough, but we still gotta have it. Other than hope, what do our young people need to be successful? If you could look into the camera and just share with them what would be that thing, that hope that they need, if you were to look into this camera, what other than hope, what would you say?
You are not alone. You are not alone, and we have people with boots on the ground that want to see you succeed in life. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that happens for you.
So you heard it first. Dr. William Combs III, school to prison pipeline, K-12 Sell, Going to be on the Cameron Hall show coming up
in April.
Not to date this. But at the same time, I don't know who you are watching. And you may have hope. But we're saying hope alone is not enough. But you still got to have it. To the next episode, we're out.